Alright, so I'm doing this video because I've had several people, and just the latest one was this morning, several people asked me about these two machines. And I guess I understand if people were shopping why these two machines would be on their to look at list, because they're both around, actually the Talon's probably a little bit cheaper. So this in the sport model, 22-ish, more like 25, 26 in the ultimate trim, and then this in the live valve is, I think, retails for around 23, although you can buy these a lot cheaper. So anyway, 2023 Talon 1000R live valve, which at the time was the top of the line machine. 2026 Polaris XPS 1000 Ultimate, so the top of the line of that model. So I hadn't planned on keeping both of these machines. I was going to replace this one with this one, but it turns out used market's really bad right now. The first question I get asked is, why am I moving away from the Talon to the Rzr? That really comes down to, like, the Talon's a great machine, and it wasn't really anything wrong with the Talon. It's that I kind of outgrew it as far as the type of riding I want to do. This is a phenomenal trail machine. It does great going down the trails. If you want to ride back roads and do long riding, the dual clutch transmission is perfect for that. It does well in a lot of ways. It's just when you get into the nitty-gritty technical stuff, all of that, it's really hard to beat a CVT. So that's really what it came down to. Nothing wrong with the Talon. In fact, I may even be keeping it because my daughter really likes driving it, and people are just giving them away on the used market. So I may just keep it around as a backup, and like I said, my daughter really likes to drive it. I think it's a good fit for her. There's no way to really drive it wrong, so it's great for a learning rider to get in, because the transmission and the clutch will take care of itself. When I first bought side by side, I thought I would be riding it around all the time like a ATV, and that's just not the case. Pretty much the only time these get out is if I'm working on them and I'm testing something, or if I'm going on a ride with my friends. So it's just not general just riding for me. I'm gonna say, if you're gonna own a machine to do that with, a Talon is probably the best one. As far as just general riding and buzzing around and having fun, super great machine. Get it into the trails and the technical stuff, it does fine. There are people who ride these and they drive the hell out of them, and they do fine. But it is not on the level with something like this, because I felt like the Talon needed more. It rides a lot lower. Both of these machines have skid plates on them. Both have aftermarket bead locks. But the Rzr comes with 32s factory, and dude, you don't have to upgrade from 32s. 32s will get you around like no problem. This machine stocked with 28s, I think, and they're sort of yard tamer tires, right? Like, they're designed not to tear up yards and stuff, not necessarily for the best traction. So you get even less clearance running on smaller tires, and they different offsets front and rear. So if you go to an aftermarket setup like this, you got to either buy spacers or compromise on your spare to do something like that. So that was sort of a turn off with the Talon, and I think that is an older design philosophy. I think Polaris still does it on the Pro XP, but on these, it's a square setup. The fronts fit the back fit the front. If you get a spare, it'll fit all four corners, where this, you may not be ideal if you have to use not the right spare. These are 31-inch carnivores, which I liked the carnivore at the time. I'm less of a fan of it now after having ridden on sticky tires. They do okay for general off-roading, not a problem, but 31s and maybe 32s are about as big as you can go on one of these without doing a gear reduction, and that is an engineering problem, where Honda just didn't gear it low enough on the low side to be able to turn over some bigger tires. And that's another thing that I dislike about the Honda and the DCT, is the power delivery is just, it's abrupt, man. Like, especially in reverse, it's very jarring to take off with it in reverse. And if you're trying to climb up on a rock, right, like you're sitting still and you got a rock in front of it and you're trying to just gently bump up on the rock, you know, this thing, it's jumpy enough to where you can overshoot. The Talon community, when they watch my videos, have been the most combative about my criticism about this. And it really is a problem. And it wasn't any more evident to me than the other day when I watched some of the release video of the 2026 Ranger, that they've put throttle modes in to soften the throttle response, to numb the pedal. And if that carries over on the next gen Honda, which I suspect will be announced soon, because I think 26 is the last year they're doing this one, if that carries over, then they're going to have a lot more capable machine on their hands. So that having that smooth power delivery would be would go a long ways towards making this thing do a lot better on the rocks. The Rzr XPS comes set up with rock, normal, and sport modes, all different throttle profiles for how you're going to drive the machine. Rock mode on that thing I absolutely love. It is buttery smooth, getting over stuff. Power delivery, you just, you know, you bump it up against a rock and you give it some gas, and if it doesn't go, you just give it a little more and just give it a little more, and that CVT will ease it up and over that rock. You're not going to over and overshoot and high center, or, you know, not saying that always happens in the Talon, but that's a problem. On a CVT, when you're riding in technical stuff, it's just way better. This, like I say, the dune guys, the desert guys love these things because you're moving, you're fast. And don't get me wrong, it's super fun to rip through the gears on this thing when you're, you know, hauling ass around a track or whatever. Like, extremely fun to drive. And it's, you know, it sits a little lower, so it's more adept at that. So yeah, that I like. I haven't had any problems with this machine, but those are just some of the criticisms I've had owning over the last couple of years. It's still fun to ride. I took it out with my daughter the other day. She absolutely buried it in the mud. You should check my channel for the video, because you couldn't even tell what color the thing was. And I think it had pulled itself out of that mud hole that she was in if she would have stayed in it. She wasn't willing to eat the mud hitting her in the face while she was trying to get out, so we ended up having to winch out. But that's one of those things. So I'm not going to say that this is a bad machine. It's just, it hasn't really changed much since 2018, I think, was when the first Talon. I don't know when the R came out. I think the X came out in 2018. What else about these two machines? They're both 1000cc machines, 104 horse, I think, 114, I think this machine is. You can't really tell a difference power-wise. One big difference when riding these in the woods and the trails is this machine, since you have control over the gear, like you can gear it down and ride with the RPMs at a comfortable level. And you know, if you're taking your girl with you or whatever, you want to be able to have a conversation or talk whenever you're riding, it's pretty good for that. Like, it's pretty calm, pretty serene ride through the woods. I've had some really relaxing rides in this, if that's your thing. This is the complete opposite. This thing is super low geared and low gear, and it is loud and rowdy. You're not going to be doing a lot of talking riding side by side in this machine with a passenger. That low gear is made to handle bigger diameter tires, because it comes stocked with 32s. The stock XP comes with 28s and 30s, I think, between the different models. So yes, this machine seems to be ideal with this setup. I really like it. Climbs over things well, just doesn't have a problem turning these tires over. With this machine, if you wanted to run a tire setup like that, you know, it's going to be expensive. You're going to have to do a gear reduction, probably some different A-arms and stuff. If this is your goal, I wouldn't do that at all. That is a machine that's better taken sort of as is and enjoy it for what it is. Like, people are putting Jackson Racing turbo kits on, they're blowing piston skirts out of them and stuff to get all that horsepower. If you want horsepower, buy it up front. I know they factory warranted him with Jackson and stuff. They're still screwing him up. But I think that machine is just better left as is, like power wise. So I don't know. I just, you know, obviously I've done stuff to it, but like the tires and wheels is probably the biggest thing. The rest of it's like, you know, just sort of peripheral protection stuff for the CV joints and stuff like that. That has a really small fuel tank. This has a big fuel tank. I think almost 11 gallons. I can ride all day on that, no problem. On that, I usually have to come back into camp and splash some more gas in it. So that's just one thing that's not on your mind when you're out on the trail on the Rzr is big gas tank. You're probably gonna be riding all day on it, so probably a lot better range on this one. Overall aesthetics, I think this machine is beautiful. I love the lines on this machine. Like, whoever drew this on paper, like, they had a passion for how something looks. This, I think maybe it started out that way, has some decent lines, but I think the cage is quirky looking. I was never about the looks on this machine. I was like, I want a Honda, I want something reliable, something that's gonna last. And I think it will, but I'm gonna return back to the Honda build quality stuff I was talking about. So I've ridden Honda all my life. I only switched to Yamaha when Honda stopped making sport quads. But like, I have the Ranger, I have this, I've had Can-Am, Polaris. I haven't had Yamaha side-by-sides. The only machines I've ever had to jack with alignment out of the box are the two Hondas. Both of them had terrible alignment from the factory, and they had the marks on the tie rods, you know, that it was QC'd or whatever. Both machines pulled violently to the left when I rode them. That one I just did the other day just because I got tired of it pulling to the left. Both of them, the steering wheels were crooked, just stuff like that. Like, I don't know, where's the QC, the end product quality that I'm looking for? Like I said, I've only owned two Honda side-by-sides, but they both did the same thing. Both have over-tightened bolts. I had to easy out some seatbelt bolts on that the other day because they're over-tightened. I don't understand. Yeah, there's that. I mean, that really frustrates me. Honda has this reliability thing, but like the build quality aspect of it, frustrating. I just saw there's a big old ball of leaves down there I need to get out. This thing's had like 3 washes and it's still hiding mud everywhere because, man, it was a pig. I just took this to loop last weekend and it was pretty dry. It didn't get that muddy, but it performed great. I've had it out on 2 or 3 longer rides now. It's been phenomenal. Like I said, my major dislikes on it are probably also one of its assets, which is the low gearing. That is a double-edged sword. Some people love it. I mean, it is good when you're going slow and you're technically picking your way through stuff. That low gear is awesome. With the CVT, power delivery, super smooth, and it's easy to climb over stuff. This thing is also very long-legged. It has tons of belly clearance. I've led on a couple rides and had friends behind me, and we went through some rut sections that, you know, other people didn't, you know, they were going around. But this thing handles that kind of stuff no problem. So I really like the amount of clearance this machine has. I like the upgraded drivetrain this machine has, like the Pro S style hubs, diffs, drive shafts, half shafts, all that stuff's pretty friggin' beefy. The drive shaft on this machine is a known weak point. And also problems with the rear locker, like if you ride on pavement too much. I try not to, you know, around corners too much with it. I try to stay on gravel or whatever, but that's something you want to be cognizant of on the Honda. Biggest thing for me, though, being between these two machines, being a big guy, is this machine has got tons of leg room. Tons of leg room. I do not have any problems fitting in this machine. My friend mentioned that he thought the seats sat too close together, or at least compared to the Honda. I think they're about the same. If you're big guys, you're going to rub shoulders. But that's not a big deal to me. The footwell and how much knee room you have, that's what makes a big difference to me. I've documented this before on some of my other videos, but the Talon, the compartment is much smaller. Passenger side, not an issue, but over there with the steering column, I'm always banging my knee getting out of it. Not a lot of adjustment with the seat. You can just tell the room between the steering wheel and the seat's pretty small versus this. There's a lot more room, and this has lost 2 inches because of the removable steering wheel. But even with that, like, the ergonomics on this are way better. Storage, this machine's got the Talon Beat. It's got all the storage compartments up front. It has an actual large glove box. I'm using center bags on the rear of both. I like the Talon. I'm excited to see what they do next. I mean, how many generations has the Rzr had to refine versus the Talon? It's still the first gen. I know they've done some stuff through the model years, but it hasn't really changed. So Honda is a company that is slow to make changes, but like, as far as the range is concerned, they've completely redone that this year. It's largely based on the same, but they're coming out with a cab model and all that. So I'm hoping the profiles, the throttle profiles and stuff they're doing, make its way over to the next gen Talon. I hope they build us out a little bit more robust machine to be able to run bigger tires. I don't think anyone's going to go wrong buying a Talon, especially on the used market. I would be more comfortable buying a Talon than a Rzr on the used market, just because I think these engines are probably more bulletproof. But yeah, it's just in an aging chassis. This is basically a revision of the Turbo S, but all in all, just a really, really nice machine. Like, huge suspension, super cushy, a little bit longer wheelbase. The Honda is pretty short wheelbase. It kind of beats you up going over bumps and stuff. It's all the bumps and stuff are very sharp, and it does, beat you up a little bit more. That may not be a concern to some people because someone said I'm an old man and that kind of shit doesn't matter. So there's that. But to me, it does matter, especially this being their long travel machine. This thing should float. It should not be beating you up. That thing floats. You hit big bumps with that, it just eats them up. Other than that, I know I've just given a lot of criticism about the Talon versus the Rzr, but I still like the machine. Like I said, it's just old. And with the Turbo R, the 4-seater I have, I kind of wanted the 2-seater experience. So when this came out and had all the things that I didn't like about the regular XP sort of fixed in this model, it was clear I needed to make the jump. So I wouldn't turn anyone away from either one of these machines. I think either one of them is going to serve you well. But Honda, the Talon gets a lot of hate and it gets a lot of love. This thing, like, as far as on the internet, it seems to get just unconditional love. Like, almost nobody is complaining about this machine. Some people are breaking them and stuff, but you see how people drive these things. You can't, abuse the thing and expect it not to have to, replace some parts every now and then. I guess that's it. I just kind of wanted to do, someone mentioned that, what I thought about the two different machines. Big selling points on the XPS, especially the Ultimate model, comes with winch already installed. And even if you have to install the winch, it's going to be way easy because it kind of has an integrated bumper. Most of the time the winch is tucked back behind the bumper. This sort of has the bumper on it, so it's very front and center and easy to get to. When we had to winch the other day, I struggled with that because it was in the mud, and just some other things had gone wrong that jammed it up and ended up not being able to use it when I wanted to. I think this setup is a little nicer, but it comes installed, ready to go. That took me 6 or 8 hours to install to get it installed in a quality way that I wanted, with all the wires tucked and loomed and everything mounted up high out of the water and everything. That was a lot of work. This was already there, so that was a big win for me. Also wanted ride command. My other machine has ride command. I really like it. It has all the things. It has your GPS. It has everything right there. Yeah, and it's one of those features I didn't want to go without. Also has an audio system already built in, which is nice. I don't think the Talon comes in that type of trim level. Anyway, I don't know why they didn't do that in the Talon. If this had a factory installed audio setup, I think it'd be pretty cool. Like I said, we had to go to the bar, which works. does not sound as good as the Rockford system in this thing. So as far as just amenities, that was just one of the things I really liked. So yeah, I've just kind of moved on from the Talon. I still get in it and buzz around, but I just really, if I'm going to go riding, I really enjoy riding this more. So it's just, especially with the 35s on it, man, it climbs over anything. It just floats. It just doesn't really get upset. Where the Talon, you know, on 31s, and then it's sort of subpar geometry. Like a lot of people talk about the trailing arm setup on this, just transferring a lot of shock straight up your backbone. That part's true. Like if you hit a rut and you catch something on that, man, it's pretty harsh. So yeah, and then obviously the flaw with the airbox and all that stuff, the way the stock filter works, that kind of sucks. It sucks that the aftermarket and the community had to come up with a better option than what this thing does factory, because this just, I mean, it just sucks up dust. You'll just destroy filters in no time if you don't do a pre-filter solution or something like that. Obviously it's easy to address, but that's something they could have addressed over the model years. We're up to 2026 now, so things have been around 8 years. They could have done something different with that by now. So yeah, that's my comparison of these two machines. They're around similar price points, but it really stops there. For a trail machine, you're just not going to beat this setup, CVT and all that stuff. If you're running back roads, high speed, or desert stuff, maybe this is more appealing to you. But I'm hoping they put put that drivetrain in a little bit more capable chassis, a little bit longer wheelbase, and just do some different things with it. I don't know how I can compare machines that are this far apart in age, but several people, it's amazing to me how many people still are after the Talon. And I will say, as my advice to anyone who's looking and buying, I would not buy a Talon right now. 2026 is supposed to be the last of this generation of Talon, so if you're dead set on Honda, I'd probably wait, or maybe buy one cheap and ride it until then. But there's going to be a next gen Talon come out, and knowing Honda, it'll be probably a very incremental step forward, but I'm hoping they do more. If they just do something with drive mode and how that power is applied, maybe change the gearing, do their own gear reduction where you can run some bigger tires, and just make it a little bit better at crawling, that would be phenomenal. But this machine seems like its best days are still coming. This machine seems like the pinnacle of all of the Rzr engineering over the years, as far as the XP platform. This seems to be the final form, and I really like it. I think cons for this machine, I already mentioned in my reviews, it seems to run a little hotter. It doesn't overheat or anything, but it just runs hotter than I would like. I did do a fan override, so if we're sitting still or going slow in a creek or whatever, I can crank that fan on and keep the temps down. But yeah, it runs a little hotter. I've never had any heat issues with this, but that's pretty much it. This thing runs at way lower RPMs when tootling through the woods versus this, and it's low gearing. So there's that. So comes down to what kind of riding you like to do. I determined that this didn't suit me for the type of riding that I wanted to do, so as like I say, I kind of moved on. And this thing had everything I wanted, everything that I wanted in the XP that it didn't have, and brought it all to market, and it's a great machine. So yeah, really pleased with that. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. We'll see. But anyway, someone wanted to know my thoughts. I think I've expressed everything that I can think of as far as these two machines are concerned. So yeah, like I say, either machine's going to suit you just fine. This one is more purpose built. It's more business versus this is more I don't know, just a play machine. This would be great for like someone who just wants to go out and ride trails and is not really concerned with doing anything else. It was just kind of how I started, kind of all I wanted to do. But as I start riding more, we start getting in a little bit more extreme terrain, things like that, something like this. Once you've gone 35s, it's hard to go back. Once you've had 35s, everything's easier. So That was never going to be a reality. With that, you can do it right out of the box, so that's a big deal to me too. So anyway, that's my thoughts. I'm not hating on the Talon. It's just older technology. Yeah, and for the price point, I think this is a banging machine. It's just great on, you know, in almost all aspects. So anyway, that's my thought on these two budget-friendly 2-seat side-by-sides. So thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.